Today we continue to listen Anattalakkhana Sutta. First we have to recite Anattalakkhana Sutta Pali. Open your book. Page 118, Sankhara Khanda. Number 4. Sankhara Khanda number 4, page 118. Can you follow me? Sankhara Bhikkhave Natta. Sankhara Jahidam Bhikkhave. Atta Abhavaisansu. Naida Sankhara. Avadaya Samvideyo. Labetacha Sankharesu. Evo me Sankhara Hondu. Evo me Sankhara Mahisondi. Yasamaja ko Bhikkhave Sankhara Nadam. Tasama Sankhara Avadaya Samvidanti. Nacha Lavati Sankharesu. Evo me Sankhara Hondu. Evo me Sankhara Mahisondi. Can you recite together? Sankhara Bhikkhave Natta. Sankhara Jahidam Bhikkhave Atta Abhavaisansu. Naida Sankhara Avadaya Samvideyo. Labetacha Sankharesu. Evo me Sankhara Hondu. Evo me Sankhara Mahisondi. Yadamaja ko Bhikkhave Sankhara Nadam. Tasama Sankhara Avadaya Samvidanti. Nacha Lavati Sankharesu. Evo me Sankhara Hondu. Evo me Sankhara Mahisondi. English translation, can you follow me? Monks. Sankhara, volitional formation are not self, soul or living entity. Monks, if volitional formation was self, it would not tend to afflict or distress, and it would also be possible to say, let my volitional formation be thus. Let my volitional formation not be thus. Monks, in fact, volitional formation was not self. Since they are not self, they tend to afflict and distress, and it is not possible to say of volitional formation, let it be thus. Let it not be thus. So Sankhara, Anatta, Sankhara are not self. There are two kinds of Sankhara, conditioning and conditioned. So in the context of this Anattalakkhana Sutta, Sankhara means one of the five aggregates, mental formation or mental activities, which produce karmic efforts. The Khandavagga Sanyutta Pali text said, Sinkata Mabi Sinkaranditi Bhikkhave Tasama Sinkarandi Ojanti. That which produce, which brings about physical, verbal and mental activities is Sankhara. According to this Sanyutta Pali, that which produce physical, verbal and mental activities is Sankhara. You remember Paticca Samuppada, Sankhara Picchaya Vijnanam. When there is Sankhara, Vijnana in new rebirth arise. Dependent on karmic volition, Vijnana relinking consciousness in new rebirth arise. Vijnana Picchaya Namarupam. When there is Vijnana relinking consciousness in the new rebirth, Namarupa arise, and then we suffer. Today we listen Sankhara Kamma, Kamma Sankhara, Vijnana in the new rebirth and suffering, Kamma Sankhara. So what is Kamma? Kamma is something that is done or a deed. It also means a mental state that is instrumental in doing good deeds or bad deeds, wholesome or unwholesome. So karma means the mental state which arises in our mind when we do some deed. Whenever there is a good deeds or bad deeds, there arises in our mind this mental state. And this mental state organize other associated mental states and also engage itself to the object. So that mental state is like a chief pupil in a class who studies himself and also encourage other pupils to study. In the same way, that mental state acts upon the object itself and also encourage or organize the other mental states arising together with it to act on the object. So that mental state is called Chetana, volition. So what we call Kamma is that mental state that accompanies or that arises in our mind of us, that arises in the mind of a person who does good deeds or bad deeds, wholesome or unwholesome. And as a mental state, it arises and disappears immediately, because according to the teaching of the Buddha, whether it is a mental state or a material state, rupa or nama, it arises and immediately it disappears. But unlike other mental states, when it disappears, it leaves some potential to give results in the mental continuum of beings. Although we cannot say, we cannot know where this potential is stored, but when conditions are favorable for that karma to give results, the results are produced. We can give the example of a mango tree that bears fruits. Before the fruits are on the tree, we cannot say where the fruits are stored, whether in the roots or in the trunk or in the branch or in the leaves. But when the conditions come together, like sunshine, moisture, and water, the fruits are produced. In the same way, the karma which has the potential to give results when the conditions are favorable for it. That is what we call kamma or sankhara. And this kamma or sankhara, as you know, can be good karma or good sankhara, bad karma or bad sankhara, or can be wholesome sankhara or unwholesome sankhara, wholesome karma or unwholesome karma. Since it is a natural law, that karma, that sankhara gives results. It follows that when the karma is good, then it will produce good or happy results. And when karma is bad or unwholesome, it will produce bad results or painful results. It is what we call the law of karma, that there is what we call volition or sankhara, or this karma or sankhara gives results in the future. So we all believe in this law of karma. And this law of karma was discovered by the Buddha himself without a teacher. On the night before he became the Buddha, the Bodhisattva sat down under the Bodhi tree and practiced meditation for the whole night. During the middle watch of the night, Buddha attained the supernormal knowledge by which he was able to see beings dying from existence and being born in the next existence. That is Devachaku Jnana. So he also saw that a being died from one existence and was reborn in a miserable existence because the being did bad karma, bad sankhara in the past. Another being dies from one existence and was reborn in a blissful state as a human beings or a celestial beings because he did wholesome sankhara or wholesome karma in the past. So during that time or during that watch of the night, Buddha discovered the law of karma. Therefore, Buddha's teaching of the law of karma was not borrowed from any other teaching, but it came from his own intuitive knowledge or super wisdom. And it is also said that only the Buddha could understand everything about karma. It is not in the province of even the best of his disciples to understand karma in all its entirety. So if we do not know everything about karma, we should not be disappointed because it is not in our own province to know everything about it. And this understanding of the law of karma taught us self-reliance and self-responsibility because we enjoy or we suffer as a result of what karma we did in the past. So whatever a person enjoy in this life is actually the results of good karma he did in the past. And whatever we suffer here is also the results of bad karma we did in the past. So we are not to blame anybody else for our suffering or failure in this life. If we want to blame at all, we can blame our own karma. We can blame our own sankhara. So karma is one that produces results. And since it is we who do the karma, we are the ones who cause the results to be produced. So we are the master of our own future. We can shape our future lives. In this respect, we are free and do not have to rely on any other person for our good future, because we alone can create our future, either good or bad. When we understand that we alone are responsible for our own suffering or for our own happiness, we know we can shape our future so that we get happiness only and not suffering. If we do not want bad results, if we do not want painful results, we just need to avoid which will give painful results. That means the knowledge of the law of karma will teach us to abstain from doing what is bad, what is painful to oneself, what is bad, what is painful to oneself, and what is harmful to others. So we can improve our lives here, and also we can shape our lives in the future, because we know or we understand the law of karma. As Sankara Vijaya Vijnana, dependent on volitional formation, Vijnana relinking consciousness in the new rebirth arise. So karma or Sankara gives results. Whenever there is karma, whenever there is Sankara, there will be results. We cannot get away from the consequence of the karma we did in the past unless we become Buddhas or we become Arahants. So when a person is reborn in another life, that rebirth is the results of karma he did in the past, in the immediate past life or in the lives before the past. So when a person is said to be reborn, he is reborn as a result of the karma sankara he did in the past. According to the teaching of Theravada Buddhism, rebirth immediately follows death. There's no time gap between death in one life and rebirth in the next life. There's no time interval between death in one life and rebirth in the next life. So according to Abhidhamma, rebirth immediately follows death, but we must understand that rebirth in the next life is not the result of the death in the previous life. rebirth in the next life is the result of karma in the past, sankhara in the past. Quite often people misunderstand this fact. People think that rebirth is produced by death. We can say that rebirth is conditioned by death also when we mean that death consciousness disappear so that rebirth consciousness can arise. It is called proximity condition in Patana, the seventh book of Abhidhamma. It is proximity condition. Rebirth consciousness is conditioned by death. When we mean that death consciousness disappear so that rebirth consciousness can arise. So death is just one moment in life, the last moment. Before that last moment, the dying person mind is occupied with some kinds of objects. Kamma nimitta, precedent to his mind by Kamma. And the qualities of these objects play an important, rather decisive role in conditioning the rebirth. So karma in the past life, immediate past life, or the lives before the past, produce rebirth in the next immediate life. Actually, disappearing of one moment and arising of another moment go on even when we are living. According to the teachings of the Buddha, we are being reborn and dying at every moment of our lives. So meditators are very seriously to find this process. Now we are talking and listening. When I talk, when I say words, and you are hearing these words, and the words disappear very quickly. You are listening to the words also comes and goes very quickly. And you are hearing and hearing consciousness coming and going. And you are seeing something and seeing consciousness coming and going. And then you are sitting and knowing, coming and going. One consciousness come and go, another consciousness come and go. Hearing the sound wave come and go. So at every moment, there is a new pair of mind and matter arising and then disappearing immediately. In the next moment, there is a new pair of mind and matter arising and then disappearing. It goes on and on like that event when we are living. So if you can understand that even in our lives, one moment of mind and matter follows another moment of mind and matter without any interruption or any time gap between the two, we can understand this life and the next life. Actually, this life and the next life are different only by one moment. At the moment of death, we call this life. At the next moment, which comes immediately, we call it the new life or next life. That is because we use the terms conventionally. So actually the death in one life and the rebirth in another are just the same as one moment following another moment during lifetime. So when beings are reborn after death in one life, they are just one moment after death. So the arising and disappearing of mind and matter go on and on until we become an Arahant or a Buddha and we die. Until that moment, this arising and disappearing of mind and matter, we go on and on continuously. And here also the rebirth is produced by Kamma or Sankhara. And so we can do something about Kamma or Sankhara in this life so that we are reborn in a better existence. Now when we talk about rebirth, people want to know what it is that is reborn there. This we answer with the maxim, neither he nor another. The person who is said to be reborn in the next life is neither the same person that died in the previous life, nor is he a totally new person, totally independent of the beings who died in the previous life. So this is a maxim we use, neither he nor another. At the moment of rebirth, what happens is Kamma or Sankhara produce a state of mind and some material properties, and that we call rebirth. So mind and matter that are produced or mind and matter that arise at the moment of rebirth are not something that is carried over from the previous life. According to the teaching, nothing moves from this life to the next life. Nothing moves. but as a result of something that beings did in the previous life, they are produced the results in the future. So they are connected as cause and effect. They are related as cause and effect. We may think of a necklace or rosary. There are beads on them, and these beads are different from one another, and they are distinct too. But there is a string going through those beads, and so we think that it is a series of beads, but actually only the individual beads are real. So in the same way, mind and matter at every moment is new, arising at every moment. But there is something like a string going through the succession of arising of mind and matter. That is relationship as cause and effect. So when an effect is produced by a certain cause, then it must have same feature of the cause in it. In that way, there are no chaotic arising and disappearing, or there is no such thing as my karma will give result to you, or your karma will give result to me, because there is this line of relationship of cause and effect going through arising and disappearing of mind and matter at every moment. Now when Namarupa, mind and matter produced, or mind and matter arise at the moment of rebirth, Buddha called Jatipi Dukkha, rebirth suffering. It is a word that most people don't like. And people say, you talk about suffering all the time. But according to the teaching of the Buddha, the rebirth is also suffering. To be reborn as a human beings, to be reborn as a celestial beings, to be born as an animal is also suffering. So according to the Buddha teaching, everything in the world is suffering. Here first, we must understand the word dukkha, suffering. Because sometimes the translations are not adequate, or we do not, or we cannot cover the range of meanings that was covered by the original words. Now whenever we hear the word dukkha, our minds go just pain. When we say there is suffering, we think that only pain is suffering. There's pain, there's physical pain and mental pain. That is suffering, that is very easy to see. But what the Buddha meant by dukkha is much deeper than that. So according to the Buddha, everything in this world is suffering, dukkha. Even when the person is enjoying himself, everything, when the person is enjoying himself, enjoying good relationship, enjoying sensual pleasures, these pleasures are themselves termed dukkha, suffering by the Buddha. Why? Enjoying good relationship, enjoying sensual pleasures are termed suffering. Why? We must understand that the criterion taught by the Buddha for something being suffering or dukkha. Now Buddha said, whatever is impermanent is suffering. We must follow that. Chittanistan tan dukkha. Whatever is impermanent is suffering. Can we find anything that is permanent in this world? Can we find anything that just arises and does not disappear? Nothing. There's nothing that lasts forever. Everything must come to an end simply because it is a beginning. So whenever there is a beginning, there is an end. It is a law of nature. We cannot escape that. We are born as human beings. We started as human beings. We will not live forever. One day we all will die because that is the end of our lives. So whenever there is a beginning, there is an end. Something that has a beginning and an end cannot be said to be permanent. It is impermanent. So Buddha said, whatever is impermanent is dukkha, suffering. That means it is oppressed by arising and disappearing. It is bombarded by arising and disappearing. It is tormented by arising and disappearing. Being constantly oppressed by arising and disappearing is what Buddha meant, dukkha or suffering. Not just pain, not just sorrow, not just depression and others in the mind of suffering. But whether it is pleasure or it is sorrow, everything there is a beginning and end. According to the criterion dukkha, because there is a sense of being oppressed by arising and disappearing. It will become more pronounced when you practice meditation. When you practice vipassana meditation, you try to be mindful of whatever object is at the present moment. One rising, you notice and disappear. One falling comes and you observe disappear. Hearing, you note hearing and disappear. Seeing, you note and disappear. Whatever object you keep your mind on it, arises and disappears. Satipatthana Vipassana meditation encourage to observe every phenomena, every arising phenomena occurring at the six senses. You need to be aware. So whatever objects you keep your mind on it, arises and disappears. It will not stay for a long time. You're hearing this voice. I am talking words, and you are hearing the words come. These words one after another. They just come and go, come and go. So you are aware of every object that you observe. Come and go, and you can get the sense of being oppressed by arising and disappearing. Just be aware of the present, one after another. Even when you are listening to me now, you are being bombarded by arising and disappearing. You are not the same person now as you were a few minutes ago. So there is this arising and disappearing going on all the time. There's no gap between these. So we all are constantly and continuously oppressed by this arising and disappearing. That is what Buddha meant by dukkha, suffering. If we understand this, we can understand that Vinchupadanakhanda dukkha, all five aggregates are suffering. Now in the Anattalakkhana Sutta, the five aggregates, Rupa, Vena, Sanya, Sankara, and Vijnana, Buddha mentioned all are anatta. And they are connecting each other. If you see anicca, you can see dukkha, and if you see anicca and dukkha, you will understand anatta. Yes, in the beginning, anatta is very difficult to see it. But we must practice. If we practice more and more, we understand clearly the nature, and then dukkha, and then when we see nature and dukkha very thoroughly, we will understand anatta. So five aggregates means everything in the world. So everything in the world has a beginning and an end. So everything is suffering. When we try to understand the teaching of the Buddha, especially the first noble truth, we must understand the suffering on this level, not just on the popular level. Now explaining the first noble truth, Buddha said, Jatipi dukkha, birth is suffering, jara dukkha, aging is suffering, disease is suffering, marana dukkha, death is suffering, and so on. But they are not difficult to understand. Without meditation, we can understand that they are all suffering. But at last, Buddha said, Sankhetena Pinjupadana Khanda Dukkha. In brief, all five aggregates of clinging, Upadana Khanda, are dukkha, suffering. That means everything in the world is suffering. That is what many people cannot accept. Many people do not understand what Buddha really meant. When Buddha said, everything in the world is suffering, or all five aggregates of clinging, Upadana Khanda, are suffering, he had in mind that definitions of suffering, that is, being constantly oppressed by arising and disappearing. There is not a single physical or mental phenomenon that can escape this bombardment by arising and disappearing. That is why everything in the world is said to be suffering. So when we try to understand the teaching of suffering, we try to understand in this way. If we do not understand on this level, we may just not understand the Buddha teaching. Or we may accuse Buddha of being a pessimist. But Buddha was not a pessimist, nor was he an optimist. Buddha was a realist. Buddha taught us what was real. He did not cover something up just to console us. When Buddha found out that the world was suffering, he just said that the world was suffering. But the good thing is that Buddha did not stop there. He said that there was a cause for this suffering. And best of all, he said that there was a way, there was a path that can lead to the cessation of suffering, or there was a path that can get out of this suffering. Just as a clever physician would point out that you have a disease and there is a cause for this disease, and that this disease could be cured, and there is the medicine to take. So Buddha said, you all beings are suffering, and there is a cause for suffering, which is craving, and there is a cessation of this suffering. And the cessation of suffering can be achieved through the practice of the middle way, through the practice of Noble Eightfold Path. Now you are practicing. The Buddha did not teach us just suffering, but he taught us how to get rid of suffering also. If we follow the practice of the Eightfold Path, we will also be able to end this suffering. So it is up to us whether we want to get out of this suffering or not. And if we really want to get out of suffering, we need to practice, we need to follow the Fourth Noble Truth, which are the way that leads to the cessation of suffering. Now, 2 months intensive retreat, you are diligently develop this path that leads to the cessation of suffering. So when we study the Buddha teaching or when we try to understand the Buddha teaching, we do not try just to understand them. We need to practice them also. Buddha teachings are like medicine. Medicine will be effective only if we take it. We may have bottles of medicine, but if we do not take them, we will not get cured of the disease we want to cure. So the effectiveness of medicine lies in being taken. Now meditate us the whole day, the whole month, diligently taking this medicine. If we do not take them, we will not get the results of that medicine. In the same way, Buddha teachings are good to understand, but it is not enough. We have to put these teachings into practice moment by moment, or we have to follow the teachings so that we are able to get rid of suffering or get rid of mental defilements. That is why in the teaching of the Buddha, practice is very important. Only through practice we can achieve what was achieved by the Buddhas and the Arhants. Now we have tried to understand what is Sankhara, what is Kamma, and also rebirth, that is the result of Kamma Sankhara. And also we have tried to understand that results of Kamma Sankhara, however good it may be, is actually suffering. Now we continue. Next time we have to stop our discourse for today by practicing vipassana meditation, by developing Eightfold Path, by noting rising, falling, seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, touching, bending, stretching, standing continuously and meticulously. May all yogis be liberated from all suffering. May all yogis realize the real peace in the very near future.